The Oklahoma City Thunder beat the New York Knicks 117-107 in a heartbreaking loss, Kwab. Heartbreaking.
How is that
I'm
heartbreaking?
sad for the Knicks. Actually, no. Let's do the Thunder. The Knicks don't deserve to go first. For the
Yeah.
Thunder, SGA, 33 points. Jalen Williams had 20. Aaron Wiggins with the quarter of his life. And I'm saying that as someone who doesn't really know Aaron Wiggins' career all that
It's a good
well
game.
and making assumptions.
It's just a good game. It was a good.
With
It's
19
it's a
points,
good Aaron Wiggins
4
game.
three-pointers for the Knicks. Mikal Bridges led the way with 24 points. Brunson had 22 and 9. Anunoby with 20. As a Knicks fan, it just pains me to say they're not ready, bro. This is a team not ready for prime time. They're not. They're not a contender in my mind. I understand that the Thunder are like their darlings, and everybody thinks they can win the NBA Finals. And the Knicks were up double digits against them on the road, and I just think that fourth quarter just showed everything that worries me from a Knicks fan perspective. It's at the end of the day, like, they can't guard the three-point line. At the end of the day, if you strap Jalen Brunson, they're going to have to find a way to create some type of offense. And even though the Oklahoma City Thunder are the best defensive team in the league, it still kind of concerns me that they just fell apart in the fourth quarter there. There was a lot of good. That second quarter was beautiful. Like, when the Knicks are really clicking, like, they made an OKC defense that's statistically one of the best ever look average at best, which was really encouraging. But there's just something about this team that just doesn't feel like they're a contender to me. You know, I know a lot of Knicks fans might disagree with me. We might catch a lot of Knicks fans on here who see me wearing this hat and think that I'm being a traitor right now, but that's just how I see it. I don't think this team is there yet. You know, you look at a team like, you know, the Cavs, for instance. They've been together for 3 to 4 years. It took them a while to get to where they're at right now, which is like a 72-win pace, which is insane.
Yeah.
You know, as a Knicks fan, you can't just expect a team to form in one season and be championship contenders. I understand that Brunson and Hart and a lot of these guys have been here before, but this is relatively a new team with a new identity. This might take a couple years. I think, yeah, it might. It might.
Do you think they have a couple years for it to?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. Like, literally couple.
Just real quick.
Yeah, and I don't want to start talking about season. This is a game recap, but it just basically highlighted. This game was just like a microcosm of what I think of the Knicks, right? It's like first quarter couldn't stop SGA. I'm always worried about can they stop these guys at the end of games, even though they did a way better job with him for the rest of the game, especially OG Anunoby particularly. But SGA was getting whatever he wanted against Mikal Bridges, and in the pick and roll, Cat in the drop was basically dropping to the rim to the point where it's like, all right, how far are you going to drop? You're giving this guy like a 12-foot floater. And then you see the good, right? You see the second quarter where the ball's whipping around and they're hitting threes on the break and everyone's cutting and everybody's moving and Jalen's getting in the paint, causing havoc. And then you see the bad again. And with the Knicks, for me, just guarding the three-point line for the past few years, even under Thibodeau, because he stresses so much rim protection that they're vulnerable from three. And someone like Aaron Wiggins tonight just goes ballistic and is the difference in the game to me. So that's just my overall thoughts, Kwab. I want to hear yours.
I'll say this, right? Personally, when I was watching the game and when the Knicks made that second quarter run, especially like Mikal was going off and you guys built the lead, I still didn't feel like you guys were going to win that game.
Really? I thought they were.
I didn't feel like you guys were going to win that game because watching. I know we had the discussion before when we were talking about the Thunder and we were talking about power rankings, and you said every time you've watched the Thunder, they've lost. So your view,
not every time, like half the time,
but a good portion of the time, every time you've watched them has been you haven't played that well. So like your view of them is probably just like, okay, we're building a lead, we're gonna sustain and hold a run. With the Thunder, every time I've watched them, and every time a team runs up on them on a lead, they still feel comfortable. They look like they don't look out of place, even though they're a young team. They just feel like they know they're about to make a run, especially when we talk about how good they are defensively. The way they covered the Knicks again was not interesting, but it's kind of like how I feel like a lot of teams will probably end up guarding them, and with putting a Roman center on Josh Hart, which was I feel like that was the case a couple of years ago too, where teams were basically allowing Josh Hart to shoot threes. And when he wasn't being aggressive, it worked in other team's favor. Like I think last year against I want to say the Sixers was when
There's a lot of games.
there's a lot of games, but I think against the Sixers was when he really was like, I'm shooting the shit out this ball. I don't care. I'm gonna be like, and it worked out in your favor. Like this game, the Thunder, who are comfortable playing small because they've been playing small most of the year. When Chet had gone down and Isaiah wasn't healthy, they had a smaller forward, was it Jalen Williams or whoever else on Cat, and to me I was like, well, you might just want to force feed Cat, and if the double comes, like move the ball, but you got to go early to make that happen, and it wasn't happening. Defensively, they did a great job on Jalen Brunson, putting long defenders on him, forcing him to take tough shots. I'm starting to have a gripe with Jalen Brunson every time I watch him now.
Why?
He's fallen into the players, the type of players where like instead of just going for the shot, you're looking for the foul before the shot. Like trying to draw the foul instead of just attacking for the shot. And I have, you know,
You're right.
I have a gripe with that was like my one gripe with like
He's mine.
I get it. He's yours. I get it. But so but it's the same thing we had when we would talk about like James Harden like a couple years back. We're like, yo, just attack the score, or even Joel Embiid sometimes. Attack the score. Stop attacking looking for the foul. Because when you don't get the calls, now you're just like yelling at the ref, you're doing this, and then the other team is running back the other way. And it happened a couple of times where he wasn't getting, like, he was looking for calls, trying to attack more for the call than for the basket. And he had a couple of shots that popped in and out that usually drop. But the Thunder on that side, they're really good. Like they're a really good team. They're a really good young team, and doing this without one of your best players still out with Chet, you see how explosive they can be. And we also talk about the Cavs and how the point we made about the Cavs team after we did a recap where we talked about how deep that team is. The Thunder have a deep team. Like having Wiggins come off the bench and just scorch y'all, and you said the game of his slide. I know you were watching. You're like, I know, because I think I saw you too. You're like really Wiggins, like of all people, like, but they Dagnall gives chances to the bench, puts them in positions. Like it wasn't even just him. There was other players that kind of stepped up and hit big buckets here and there throughout the course of the game. So it worked out. And then on the Knicks side, your starters played like 40 minutes. Everybody played 40 minutes.
Bro, it's getting ridiculous. It's getting insane.
Like, and I get it. I think one reason because Miles McBride is out, so that Deuce would have taken some of the minutes away. But at a certain point, you could tell like players didn't have their legs. It looked like it. Like it looked like they were a little bit tired. Like Bridges was going off, and then some of his shots were short. It happens, but the minutes. I know the minutes thing is like a whole thing in Knicks Twitter and Knicks world, but like when you look at the numbers, it looks crazy. It looks crazy.
Because it is crazy. It is crazy, yeah. Dude. It is. He has no trust in the bench whatsoever. Look
at it like Sims didn't get any playing time. Like Precious played 8 minutes. Campaign played 8 minutes. I think Shamet played the most off the bench in 14 minutes. And I get it. It's a trust thing. But at some point you gotta just like, if you have to have confidence in your team to allow your starters to maybe catch your breath, get a little bit of rest just to get your legs together and just to get back in the game.
Yeah, there was no Deuce today.
Yeah, there was no Deuce, which was big.
Yeah, so that heavily affected some of the minutes. But like, play Tyler Kolek. Like that, he's a draft. He can play point guard. He can initiate offense. I know he's a rookie. I know you may not trust him completely, but like, this is a regular season game. This isn't a playoff game. You know, we're in January. These guys don't need to be playing 40 minutes. They don't. Even if we lose, that's okay, fine. But get him some experience. Get him some minutes. Yeah. I should give credit to the Thunder. The Thunder, and this is the same thing I said about the Thunder last episode. We were talking about the Thunder. I watched them against the Pacers, and it was like all of a sudden they started trying on defense. Not that they weren't trying all game, but there was a level of intensity in the fourth quarter, especially on the perimeter defense. They're trapping Jalen Brunson. And even in the third quarter when they made their 8-0 run, and then that third quarter when things were going back and forth, like this team is very hard to penetrate on the perimeter.
Yeah.
Like their perimeter defense is probably the best I've seen all year, and they play the passing lanes really well.
Really well.
If you don't hit the guy who's open cutting immediately, like that pass is not getting through. So I was really impressed with the Thunder defensively in the second half of the game. I thought in the first half of the game, especially the second quarter, the Knicks kind of got whatever they wanted. But when they decided, and I hate to say decided to play because obviously they're playing hard all game, but when they turned it up a notch, you could see why this team's the best defensive team in the league for sure. You know, and that's something that I wish they would be more consistent. You know what I mean? I know it's kind of hard to play with that intensity all game, but if they could figure out a way to play with that defensive intensity, especially on the perimeter, they're far and away the best defensive team that I've seen all year. Because I haven't seen a team, you know, I've watched the Knicks have trouble with someone like Dyson Daniels, like an individual, right, who like can guard the pick and roll or whatever. But a team in general that like would not let them get in the paint. Even what you said before, where it was like. Did you hear that?
No, I didn't pick up.
All right. Even what you said before, when Cat's posting up on Jalen Williams, right? You got a smaller guy, let's get him the basketball, but there was so much ball pressure up top that they couldn't get angles to get Cat the ball.
Yep.
And there were times where Mikal Bridges was posting up too, and he had advantages. They tried to take advantage of that in the first quarter, and they did a few times. And the Thunder were just perfectly comfortable having these size mismatches because they're very comfortable with the ball pressure and their perimeter defense and the fact that they're not going to give you angles to get those post-entry passes in. So major shout out to the Thunder there. You can see why a lot of people love this team. Anecdotally, they're slightly above 500 when I watch them. If you take down the Knicks, very impressed. You know, long term though for the Knicks, they've Staff's a 9-game winning streak, so they've won 9 in a row previous to this. So like, I'm not going to jump out of the window with this.
But it
is kind of discouraging.
And we're going to talk about your Jordan power rankings. Are you comfortable with how the games they won, how they won a couple of those games? Because
no, not at all. Like we shouldn't be having trouble with the Washington Wizards. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And real quick, I was gonna say to add to your previous point, talking about the Thunder defensively and how they're great with ball pressure. They did all this without Caruso, who was
Caruso didn't even play today.
without
You're
Caruso.
right. Yeah.
So they're defensively they're really really good, especially on the perimeter, really really good. And they're gonna when they get Chet back, they're gonna be even better. In terms of size and down low blocking shots and all that. So, I mean, one of the best teams in the league for a reason.